Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Friday, March 16th, 2018. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. We have a lot of stuff to talk about today. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Mike is in our control room, ready to answer the phone and put you on the air. Yes, the lovely Lady Claire will be with us in hour number 3. So let's get right on into it. A lot of stuff going on. Today, March 16th, is the 15th anniversary of the murder of Rachel Corrie, and she was a Palestinian activist. She was actually an American, but she was over in Gaza, and she tried to block a bulldozer from demolishing a home, and the bulldozer ran her down and then backed over her. And of course, Israel's official declaration, it was an accident. The bulldozer operator couldn't see her, and yet photos that were taken just minutes before it happened, it's very obvious that the bulldozer driver could see her, was looking right at her. So again, this is the sort of thing that happens over in Israel. Now, a lot of stuff going on around the administration, and talk about a lot of firings. Sessions is saying he's considering firing McCabe, but frankly, I don't think it's going to happen, because that's just the way it works in Washington, D.C. If you do the dirty work for the higher-ups, you'll be protected, and McCabe is not going to be prosecuted, even though apparently he lied under oath, and he'll get his pension. That's what I think is going to happen, and I'm sorry to be cynical about it, but I think that's what's going on. Now, Sarah Carter is out there basically saying that Jeff Sessions ought to be fired because apparently in recusing himself from the Russia probe, he cited the wrong law. And everybody's sort of saying, what's going on? Doesn't he know what he's doing here? But apparently, President Trump is starting to act presidential. He's starting to realize he really is in charge. Unfortunately, with all these changes to his cabinet, he seems to be assembling a war cabinet rather than a peace cabinet. So I think we're in for some rough times. Lou Dobbs basically came on out and said Jeff Sessions is the most feckless, incompetent attorney general in U.S. history. I guess Janet Reno will have to settle for the silver on that particular one. And it's finally been revealed just who leaked that Russian dossier to CNN. Now remember, all the way back in January of last year, CNN revealed the existence of that fake news Russia dossier that was used to start justifying spying on Trump. Now, CNN didn't publish it. It was laundered through BuzzFeed, and once its existence became public, the rumor of collusion, despite no evidence, began to swirl. But who leaked it to CNN? Well, apparently the House Intelligence Committee has determined that Obama's former director of national intelligence, James Clapper, was the individual who leaked the dossier's existence to CNN. So a lot of machinations back there in the dark. Now, the FBI's watchdog recommends firing Andrew McCabe. Apparently, so does the current deputy FBI director. But the White House is saying it's up to Jeff Sessions, and with Sessions looking at his own possible termination, he may not be all that ready to go along with this thing. I think McCabe is going to get his pension. However, according to law professor Jonathan Turley, McCabe has much bigger problems than his pension. Everybody's been obsessing about his pension. But basically, McCabe is looking at legal trouble. And apparently, the Inspector General has come on out and said that McCabe did intentionally mislead investigators on that whole case. So, but again, I don't think anything's going to get done. It never does. And no matter how cynical I get, I just can't keep up. Now, we're still hearing about McMaster, and there have been rumors of his departure from the White House. The White House denies anything is going on, but even the Washington Post has come on out saying that McMaster is on his way out, going to be replaced by Josh Bolton, hardcore neocon. And if McMaster goes, that'll make 25 departures in Trump's first 419 days, or an average of one every 17 days. A lot of turnover. Again, the way the White House staff is swinging appears to be more toward war than toward peace here. Now, there's been another breaking case regarding Lisa Page and Peter Strzok. Do you remember all the way back when Michael Flynn was being investigated by the FISA court, and there was this judge, Rudolph Contreras, was recused from handling the case just days after accepting Michael Flynn's guilty plea. And it's come on out why he was forced to recuse himself. It turns out that Lisa Page and Peter Strzok were communicating with the judge, trying to basically go after Michael Flynn. And these text messages were intentionally withheld from congressional investigators. So it's just crazy out there. All right, we're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining the network. There's a new book out called Secret Empires, and it's talking about this very questionable timeline involving Joe Biden and John Kerry. And basically, the New York Post published an excerpt of this book, and Lou Dobbs went on about this last night as well, where basically former Vice President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden's firm, scored a $1 billion deal with the Bank of China's Bohai Capital just 10 days after Vice President Biden and his son, Hunter Biden, returned from a trip to China. So people are digging at all this crime and corruption. Now, this all happened back in 2013. But still in all, there's a lot of high-level corruption going on. The leaders of our country are acting like the rules don't apply to them, and even worse, that this country is theirs to sell off as they see fit. And that's what led to all these conflicts out in Nevada and up at the Malheur Wildlife Refuge, where the government was trying to kick people off their lands in order to turn around and sell them to developers or to the Uranium One deal. Now, there's a story that came on out from Citizen Free Press. According to a frontline GOP strategist, sometime after Easter, Paul Ryan will announce his retirement from Congress. Now, this source has asked for the name to be withheld, so already it's questionable. But that's the latest rumor that's floating around there. Democratic Congresswoman Louise Slaughter, the oldest serving House member, has passed away at age 88. The official story is she fell in her house, suffered a hand injury, concussion, swelling of the brain, and has passed away. Now, Hillary Clinton, as you know, she's touring around India, and there's that video of her slipping on the stairs, even though she's being held up by two guys, one on each side. Well, apparently she's had another little whoopsie. She slipped in the bathtub and fractured her wrist. And there's a picture going around of her with this obviously very contrived outfit on that covers the wrist and the hand, so people don't see the cast. And being 65 going on 66, I understand that you have to be careful. You can't do what you used to do, and you become fragile and you suffer injuries, and it's almost enough to make me sympathize with her. Almost. Not really, but almost. There's a twinge in there somewhere, I think, here. Now, a lot of attention is being brought to bear on the corporate social media platforms, and they're now very much in the open censorship, and how much influence they're having on the electoral process. And apparently, they're all saying, no, we're completely unbiased, But according to The Intercept, when Mark Zuckerberg was asked if Facebook had influenced the outcome of the 2016 presidential election, he dismissed the notion that the site even had such power. And it was a disingenuous remark because Facebook's website at the time had an entire section devoted to touting the success stories of political campaigns that used the social network to influence electoral outcomes. That page has now been taken down, even as the 2018 congressional primaries get underway. Now, obviously, Facebook's influence in 2016 wasn't a success because they were fully on board with Hillary Clinton. But according to an article over at Western Journal, somebody has been analyzing Facebook's recent algorithm change and said, yes, it is very biased. It is crushing conservative sites and boosting liberals. And it's just out there in the open. Conservatives are being denied a voice heading into the 2018 midterm elections. And that's why we all have to start going to alternative social media sites. Because if you're a conservative, it's a waste of time to go to Facebook or YouTube or Twitter. Twitter hid 48% of tweets using the hashtag DNC leak and 25% of tweets using hashtag Podesta emails during the 2016 election. That's clearly a case of meddling and denial of First Amendment. So we have to stop using those social media platforms. It's a complete waste of time. The liberals love it because they get to live in their fantasy liberal universe. But if we're going to have an outreach to fellow conservatives and to the American public in general, we have to find other means to do it. One of the best, of course, is word of mouth. And so you might want to start thinking of yourselves as evangelists, if you will, for the independent media, and just make a point of talking up Republic Broadcasting and whatreallyhappened.com. Just tell all your friends. Email it out. We need to balance this. We need to get balance back into the public discussion regarding the upcoming elections here. Now, over at Oraz.com, they have an article on how Russian trolls smeared Senator John McCain as a traitor on social media. Right now, apparently, if you say anything critical about anybody in the government, no matter how much they deserve it, oh, you must be a Russian troll. You can't be a real American citizen. Real Americans just love and trust and would never say anything bad about our politicians. I mean, we gave you the First Amendment right to freedom of speech. We didn't expect you were actually going to use it. Now, don't forget, when John McCain was held in North Vietnam, he made radio broadcasts on behalf of North Vietnam, kind of like a modern-day Tokyo Rose. Those audio tapes were rediscovered and made public. So it doesn't take a Russian troll to realize he was, in fact, committing an act of treason. And on his return to the United States, had it not been for a blanket pardon by Richard Nixon for all the returned Vietnam prisoners, John McCain would have been court-martialed. Now, U.S. Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin has spent almost $1 million on military liaison flights for himself and his entourage when he could have taken cheaper civilian flights. This is coming from a Transparency Watchdog report. Those politicians and officials, they love to live high on the hog at your expense. And then they wonder why we complain. Article out of Zero Hedge. The neocon full court press for war is here. Now, I remember the Cold War. I was old enough to be aware of it, and it was basically a lot of propaganda. Russia's evil, Russia's bad, so forth and so on. But this is different. This is different. This is actually pushing for direct confrontation. and it is insane. And ever since Putin unveiled the new doomsday weapon systems at his State of the Union address, the West has gone completely bonkers. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov is saying, I simply don't have any normal terms left to describe all this. Are they all on antidepressants? Because that would be one explanation for why our government is behaving as insanely as they are. No rational, reasonable, logical person could see any point in pursuing this any further. It's all downside, no upside. We can't win this. If it goes nuclear, nobody wins it. Now, the Syrian army has managed to evacuate over 12,500 civilians from eastern Ghouta, and contrary to the corporate media spin that the Syrian people hate Assad, they're all very happy the army is there. They're telling these horror stories of what the U.S.-backed rebels were doing, how the U.S.-backed rebels were trying to keep them in Ghouta to ramp up the number of civilian casualties with which to tarnish Assad and Russia. And intentionally harming civilians in a war zone, again, it's a war crime. It's an absolute war crime. So about 800 civilians are leaving every hour through this humanitarian corridor established by the Russian Center for Reconciliation in Syria and the government forces. And footage taken on the ground is showing crowds of civilians moving through the corridor. Some are going by car, most still travel on foot. Entire families are leaving the area, and people are carrying their children, carrying stretchers with injured or sick relatives. Look at all the devastation that has been brought to the people of Syria, courtesy of the United States government, and then multiply it by the number of countries the U.S. is currently in. And we don't actually know what that number is. We don't know all the places the U.S. is intervening right now. The corporate media is not going to tell us. It caught everybody by surprise when those 4 Americans got killed in Niger, and everyone's saying, we're in Niger? Now, a recent opinion piece by Tom Lister for CNN was called Assad May Win Syria's War, but he will preside over a broken country. And basically, the Brookings Institute is saying that the U.S. has a plan B. They're starting to accept the possibility they're not going to be able to win in Syria. Their plan B is to basically leave it a scorched earth and just wreck the place. So it'll take Assad decades to rebuild again. Then they can just leapfrog over him and go after Iran. Now, Russia is once again warning, and I wish our government would listen. Russia says it will attack the U.S. military if Trump strikes Syria again. Now, remember, the last time Trump struck Syria, again, it was on the basis of bogus information, bogus claims about Assad did this, Assad did that. Assad is a lousy tipper. It wasn't really a very good demonstration of America's weapons. They launched 60 cruise missiles at the Syrian airfield. One failed coming out of the tube, and most of them completely missed the target. And those that hit the airfield hit dirt. The airfield was back in operation 24 hours later. And this is one of the reasons why countries like Turkey are saying, I don't want to buy American weapons. They don't work. They're very expensive. We're going to go to Russia. Now, Turkey is continuing its brutality against the Kurds in Afrin. More than 20 civilians have been killed. All right, let's start taking some phone calls. Mark in North Carolina, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. I didn't think about that, about the antidepressants, but seriously, that might be one of the things with our leadership. I mean, these people are nuts. They're crazy. There's going to be no winner in confrontation. In a ground war with Russia, if it doesn't go nuclear, and it's not likely that it's going to stay non-nuclear, personally, I don't think we could win that either. Even though Russia doesn't have anywhere near the amount of military hardware as we've got, they've got a lot. They seem to have a lot better hardware, even though they spend a lot less money. I mean, look at all these big aircraft carriers we've got. They'd be sitting targets. You
For
see
those
that
new
submarine
hypersonic
that's-
missiles, yes. Russia's new weapons are specifically designed to exploit the weakness in the carrier battle group doctrine.
So I just don't understand these people. I really don't. I mean, and their obsession with Assad there, and still to try to get rid of Assad, they're not going to do it. Assad's fighters are tough. And if Israel thinks they're just going to roll over him, they're crazy. And I got news for Mr. Erdogan there in Turkey. He ain't going to roll over the Syrian army either. The Syrian army is tough. They're battle hardened, and they love their country. They're patriotic. They're a secular nation. Christians, Muslims of different type. They all get along pretty well.
Okay,
And,
Mark,
Mark,
I'm going to put you on hold. Mark, we're going to do a commercial break.
Yeah.
Don't hang up. I'm going to come right back to you after these words from our sponsors.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. And before we go back to the phones here, folks, it is really serious out here in independent media land. And we really do need your help. We're not making this stuff up. You can see it with your own eyes. All of the independent media is under attack. They're all feeling the strain, the pressure. Our advertisers are actually being threatened. we've gone way beyond Nazi Germany and Stalinist Russia right now, the way this country is headed. If you are able to help, please do. And if you can send a check or money order, the postal address is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. If you want to call on in and become a recurring subscriber, the number is 800-724-2719, extension 03. I thank you. Republic Broadcasting thanks you. And I've actually been getting emails from people who are, in fact, becoming recurring subscribers. So that's a really good thing. We're very, very grateful. Every little tiny bit will help. Okay, back to Mark in North Carolina. Yeah, it does seem like something has gone horribly wrong with our government. They're making reckless, poor decisions. And it may be because they're on prescription antidepressants. We know that some of the people in Congress don't seem to be firing on all cylinders, like Nancy Pelosi and Maxine Waters. We know there's actually a pharmacy inside the Capitol building. So apparently there is a demand for medication right there. And that may be right. That may be one explanation. The other one may be, if you remember Gulliver's Travels, that the top rulers are just surrounded by all these advisors who are telling them what the rulers want to hear rather than telling them what they need to know. And it looks like Trump is unfortunately going down that same path with some of his recent acquisitions to the White House.
It's very disturbing to hear that John Bolton, this guy is evil. This guy's an evil, nasty neocon, a warmonger, and he was a draft dodger during the Vietnam War. And if he could even be considered for National Security Advisor, tells you that Trump basically is either bought and paid for or he's a total phony. And if he does that, if he puts Bolton in there, I'm going to tell you right now, that's it. No more support for Trump. I don't care how good he is in other things like trade policy. Nope, that's it. I'm looking to support somebody in 2020. I'm hoping that somebody like a Jesse Ventura and a Cynthia McKinney form a partnership and run for a president and vice president. I think that would be. There's a lot of stuff I don't agree with Jesse on. You know, like he does believe in climate change and all that nonsense, and he's kind of funny in the borders. But I'm telling you, we don't need war. We don't need the destruction of the planet. No. You know, I mean, let's be honest. That's what nuclear war would lead to, and these madmen will get us into something like this. It just gets worse and worse. Well, and on top of that, I don't like it. When Syria is being attacked for no reason, and we're supporting Islamist radicals, terrorists, to try to get rid of Assad. And the other thing is what's happening in Yemen. This bothers my conscience. This is disgusting. You know, by the way, who's very good? I know, you know, just by the name, you'd think it was something else, but it's called Israeli News Service or something like that, News Alive. I should get it on YouTube. And there's this guy, Stephen Danoon. He's not what you think. He's actually a, what do you call it again, a Masonic Jew. You know, in other words, he believes in Jesus. But no matter what he believes in, he knows this is garbage. He was almost crying what's going on in Syria and what's going on in Yemen. He said he doesn't understand it. He's an American, by the way. He's got a, I don't know why he calls it Israeli News Live. I don't know why he calls it that, because it's really, he's an American. He's a very religious guy, you know. And, you know, he does quote Bible prophecy, but Bible prophecy, even if, whether it's true or not, doesn't mean it has to happen. It may be a warning. I don't know what these people saw in the past. Maybe they did see something. But whatever it is, it doesn't have to happen. And, you know, he's very, very good. He comes out with everything that's going on. He comes out with how we're you know, we're tweaking Russia, how dangerous that is. Mm-hmm. And he says he's ashamed as an American, okay, that this is going on. And I don't blame him. I feel the same way. I mean, it's terrible.
It is.
Know? So you want to look at it.
I agree with you. I'm ashamed of this government. I'm not ashamed of America, and I'm not ashamed of most of the American people. But, you know, obviously, I have an issue with the liberals who seem very disconnected from reality right now. And maybe it is years of denial about how bad things are in this country that has created this population who are living in a fantasy land. Where open borders are a good idea and we can actually win a nuclear war. And these leaders, they all have their bunkers. Billionaires are buying nuclear bunkers. They think they're going to be able to survive this. But some of these nuclear weapons, the radioactive contamination from them will last far longer than anybody can survive in an underground bunker. It really is insane that they're going this way. Anyway, listen, Mark, I got to let you go. We got to do another commercial break, and I got other callers. So we'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds, up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. And we're going to go back to the phones. Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
How you doing, Mike?
Doing
fine.
fine.
The near abroad. The near abroad is what Russia stays close to home, so they don't need to come over here. You know, they're not an empire. You know, like that's the whole problem. Like, this country has a big navy because we're an empire. British don't have a big navy anymore because they're not an empire anymore. They're never going to be again. You know, and but your previous caller, Russia's got about 12,500 active tanks. They got like one of the largest land armies in the world. You know, we'll never defeat, like, between them and the Chinese. You know, like, it's just like it's a landlocked fortress, and we have to go there. Remember that.
Yes.
It takes a lot more forces to penetrate their fortress. Then they're never going to come here. We don't have anything for them to we have no factories anymore. There's no reason to come here, you know? So, hey, Mike, I got a question for you on the Tsar bomb. Like, I know it's a gigantic thing, and that was 50 megaton out of a supposed, 100?
Yes.
I believe. That System 6 drone torpedo the Russians developed
Yes.
is supposed to be capable of 100 megaton warhead. Is that possible? On like
the number I heard was the number I heard was a 50 megaton warhead, and it all depends on how large the unit is. The Tsar bomb was a prototype. It was put together as a technology demonstrator, and the Russians were so afraid of it, they dialed it back to only 50 megatons, and it left a huge scar on the Earth. But if they work to miniaturize it the way the U.S. has miniaturized nuclear warheads over the year, it's possible. And if they could get one of those things underneath an American carrier group, the carrier group is going to be completely gone. And 50 megaton is a little bit of overkill, because if you remember Test Baker in the Crossroads series here in the South Pacific, they took a whole bunch of ships left over from World War II, including an aircraft carrier, and they arrayed them around this underwater nuclear detonation, and pretty much all of them were rendered unusable. And that was only, I think, 3 megaton.
And what's Cobalt 59? Because the encasing of this unit is supposed to be Cobalt 59, which is insane from what I read about Cobalt. But Mike, do you realize this thing has a nuclear? This thing can stay underwater for months, like just in idle. No, I mean, and it can just be used to destroy like installations and like economic ports.
Yeah, I mean, if this thing could go into like Los Angeles Harbor, it would destroy most of Los Angeles. And what Putin is trying to do here is say nuclear war is unthinkable. Stop thinking about it. And again, it's that mutually assured destruction's doomsday scenario, Dr. Strangelove all over again.
But we're not listening, Mike. I mean, we're listening, but, you know, a lot of other people are not listening, and it's very scary. But hey, Mike, on
before you move any further, I want to respond. The Pentagon and the Department of Defense are already out there saying Putin is bluffing. He doesn't have these things at all, and you know, but Putin doesn't bluff. He plays chess. Americans like to bluff. Americans like poker. They love gambling. They love the game of hearts. And I think you need to take into account the fact that Russia just released a video test of that hypersonic missile. So they at least have got that. And that thing is a carrier killer. There is absolutely nothing that the U.S. has right now that could intercept and take out a maneuvering hypersonic attack, the Sea Skimmer. The close-in weapons systems
that was on
can't
the MiG-31, I believe.
What was that?
I think that was the one on the MiG-31, the Kindle system, the Dagger.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's. You see the size of that thing? My God.
Yes.
Now, Mike, your previous caller mentioned. You know what killed Trump with me? Everything he ran on.
Yes.
We're in a big fat bubble, and then when he gets in, everything's going great. And then Russia did it, and then this woman he put in, that woman, this wretched woman who was actually involved in doing torture herself, this war criminal woman, she looks like she's out of, like, Nazi Germany, Mike.
Yep.
I don't care. This woman is evil. It's evil. My God, I'm like, what's going on here? How can anybody want this woman? to be in. You know, I'm like, I don't know.
Well, some of Trump's decisions are obviously coming from outside. We know that Israel and Sheldon Adelson and various others were really pushing him to take Josh Bolton in on the team. And, of course, Trump is, out there saying, well, I really like the guy and it was my idea all along. But I think, unfortunately, Trump is still being controlled primarily from outside. And he's being controlled by that war machine. And I guess we've just reached the point where the consensus opinion within Washington, D.C. and Wall Street is that without a major war, this country will collapse. That part I agree with. The part I don't agree with is the fact that a war is going to fix the problems, because we're going to lose this one. That other caller was absolutely right. We would have to go over to Russia. They've got huge numbers of forces in uniform. So does China. America, meanwhile, over the last 18 years, has drawn down all of our stockpiles. We've used up a lot of our weapon systems. Apparently, they break rather easily. And we don't have the manufacturing to produce war materiel in the volume necessary to sustain a major combat. We just don't.
And then, Mike, real quick, switching gears on the economy real quick. March 26th, the Chinese, something goes online, right? Like is it the Shanghai now, I believe, the co-op? Or
no, the Shanghai Cooperative Organization's already up and running. The Russians and the Chinese, I think BRICS is setting up their own
alternative, Mike.
Hang on. I think BRICS is... Hang on. I think what's happening at the end of the month, the BRICS nations have been working on their own electronic funds transfer system to parallel SWIFT, because it's U.S. control of SWIFT that allows the U.S. to actually enforce their sanctions all over the globe. And a lot of people want to get out from underneath that sword of Damocles.
That's what, that's what I meant. There's a SWIFT alternative. That's what comes online March 26th.
Yes.
That's why there's this run-up, Mike, to the war. Thanks, Mike.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to take a call from Steve Elkins. Then we're going to close the lines because I got a bunch of news to get through before Claire joins us. Steve, what's on your mind today?
Well, I've got to say that a lot of your callers are really sharp people. Of course, you already know that, your listening audience. But not Michael Bolton, but John Bolton, a very poor choice if Trump considers putting him in the administration. Very poor choice. I kind of put him in the same category as Henry Kissinger.
Yes.
No, I would not put John Bolton in any kind of government office. Actually, I would believe he probably has some kind of he probably has some travel restrictions also placed on him that he cannot travel about in the world also, or he'll be thrown in as a war criminal. But the reason I called in is you were talking about John McCain, and I can't tell you how many people I have educated on this coward, this traitor John McCain, and that he simply let it be known that he was the son of an admiral, high-ranking admiral in the Navy, and became a bartering chip. The man is not courageous. He is a coward. Mm-hmm. And I can only assume he got in through election fraud or voter fraud in Arizona all these years. But he is not the man the media portrays.
No.
Actually, he is a disgrace of a human being.
But he's a good friend of Israel, and therefore he's untouchable. I've gotten emails from some of the people who were actually on that aircraft carrier, and they confirmed the story, that McCain liked to do wet starts with his jet to spook the pilot behind him, and accidentally cooked off some of the missiles on the plane behind him, and that's what led to that devastating fire. And because he was the admiral's son, they got him off the ship. He left the ship before any of the wounded did.
Right. Hey, last thing I was thinking about RBN, and I'm very proud to be part of this network. And I got to say, Mike, you do a fabulous job. I really mean that. There are a lot of great hosts on this network. And I was trying to think about some kind of little slogan for the network to kind of throw at the other hosts to mention on the show. And I came up with Keep RBN Alive, Tell 5. And that I mean Tell 5 other people who don't know about this network to check out the website, check out the Listen Live, go look at the banner articles, learn something, and share it with others. So Keep RBN Alive, Tell 5. And I'm going to be pushing that on Sunday because this is a great network. I've looked at a lot of talk radio networks, and the variety and the perspective here at this network. Like I say, you do a fabulous job. And I only came by the network because of you, actually, when I learned you were on Coast to Coast AM one day. You were talking about what was going on in the world, and I thought, my God, this is refreshing. I have never heard this talk before. So I followed you on over here to RBN, and, I've been a fan of RBN since. So I just want to say congratulations for what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing, but keep RBN alive. Tell 5.
I love it. I'm going to use it. I hope John Stadmiller is listening to this because I think it's a great idea. And obviously, you're doing a great job as well, and welcome aboard. And yes, it's all my fault that you wound up here. And RBN is a great network to work for. For one thing, having worked for some other independent media outlets, this is the only place where there is no censorship at all imposed. And that's one of the reasons why I want to stay here as long as I possibly can, because that is, in these times, that's a really, really good thing. But like I said, we're coming under pressure. Our advertisers are being threatened, and if you can help, please do. And meanwhile, Steve's come up with a great idea. Keep RBN alive, tell 5, and then tell those 5 to tell 5. Just
Right.
keep it going,
Domino
cascade
effect.
it forward. All right, thanks an awful lot, Steve. We're going to let you go. We're going to close the phone lines for a while because I got a bunch of important stuff to get to before the Lady Claire joins us. So, story coming out of Russia Insider describes what's going on as the U.S. and Great Britain trying to Iraq Russia. Now, the pro-war against Russia people are not getting a lot of traction. Nobody's buying this stuff about the spy. And so now they're playing that chemical weapons gambit. You know, if we don't attack Russia first, they're going to attack the world with chemical weapons. Nikki Haley's already up there at the UN saying, if the world doesn't punish Russia now, that Russia's going to start attacking us with chemical weapons. Boy, have we heard that one before. Remember Colin Powell and his little vial of talcum powder up at the United Nations? They must really think we are morons to think we would fall for that again. Now, up in Canada, there's this Archbishop, Gabriel, and he serves as the Bishop of Canada with the Russian Orthodox Church outside Russia, which is part of the main Russian church. And in an interview recently with Brother Nathaniel, he described this spy poisoning as basically like a KKK lynching. They're just going to grab a victim. They don't have any evidence of any wrongdoing. They're just going to go ahead and lynch Russia. And that's exactly the mindset that seems to be taking hold of this Russia bashing situation. Now, Britain is now threatening to seize a Russian oligarch's luxury real estate because of the ex-spy's poisoning. It's just another goad, another poke. They're trying to get Putin to do something overt that can be seized on as a reason to escalate the situation towards a real war. Now, over in Great Britain, Jeremy Corbyn has tried to act like the voice of reason. And he's saying, let's have a real investigation. Let's find out exactly what was used and how it was used and try and figure out what really happened. And the immediate response in the British corporate media is, oh, Jeremy Corbyn must be a Russian stooge. It's like that's become the knee-jerk reaction of the establishment. If you don't agree with them, oh, you're a Russian stooge. You're an arm of Russian propaganda. You're a Russian agent. You're a Russian asset. But according to this article in the Daily Mail, after 13 days, detectives really don't know how the spy was poisoned. Police are suggesting his daughter might have brought the poison from Russia in her suitcase. And there's a lot of weird theories out there. One of them is that this whole spy poisoning, Russia's coming to get us, is to distract the British people from Theresa May's failure to move forward on Brexit, and in fact maybe a smoke screen to keep Great Britain enslaved to the European Union. The other theory that's gaining traction on out there is that the poisoning of Sergei Skripal connects to Hillary Clinton and the DNC, because apparently the spy who was poisoned was going to reveal MI6 was involved in forging up that Trump dossier to get rid of Trump as president. And if Skripal was going to go public on that, then yes, he's a live liability, and intelligence agencies don't like live liabilities. Another article from Fort Roos, Britain refusing to give Russia alleged poison sample. Do they actually have one? Now, obviously, with Britain saying that this likely came from Russia, they say it was developed in Russia. Actually, it was developed in Uzbekistan, maybe. We'll get into that a little bit. But this refusal to provide a sample is just a little suspicious. Now, there's this article over in craigmurray.org. Apparently, he has got a high-placed source saying that Portendown scientists are not able to identify the poison used as being of Russian manufacture. And they're actually very resentful of the pressure being placed on them to do so. Now, here's an interesting little take on this. This is from moonofalabama.org. The name Novichok and its description basically tracks back to a book, a rather sensationalist book written by a former Soviet chemical weapons expert. You can buy it on Amazon for $18, where he describes all these horrible weapons. But more and more people are starting to say, you know, we're not sure it actually exists or could exist the way it's described in the book. You know, it's like Saddam's chemical weapons. It sounds dangerous. It may not really be there. We're going to take another break for commercials. We'll be right back.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you a few from Amazon.com. By Mel. Great product. My husband and father-in-law use it regularly. Both my husband and father-in-law have had significant change in their blood pressure and overall health. By Amazon customers. It works for me. Returned to buy the tincture and the capsules as they were on sale during February. Unlike some other products, this one worked for blood pressure and occasional irregular heartbeat. Extendivite produced noticeable results after just 2 bottles, a 4-month supply. I take Extendivite 3 times a day, every day. I think the supplement has helped with my increased fitness regime and to lower my blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. So, over at the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, now this is the intergovernmental organization overseeing the elimination of chemical weapons to comply with the Chemical Weapons Convention that all these countries have signed and most have complied with. And they have a subgroup called the Scientific Advisory Board. And apparently, the Scientific Advisory Board is saying that it has insufficient information to comment on the existence of Novichokes. They're not convinced it's real, that it may have just been made up by this former Soviet chemical weapons scientist to spice up sales of the book. So this whole spy poisoning story is starting to look like Tony Blair's dodgy dossier that was just copied from an outdated 12-year-old student thesis paper. And they just dressed it up and said, yes, this proves Saddam has weapons today. They did it again. Now, interestingly enough, Theresa May visited the site where the poisoning took place. And despite all the media coverage about how toxic this was and how contaminated the area was and all these people were made sick, she walked right into it without any protective clothing whatsoever, and that ignited a Twitter storm saying this is obviously a hoax show. But we don't have to worry anymore about Novichokes or poison or anything else, because in a breaking story, the British police have announced they found Vladimir Putin's passport at the scene of the poisoning. So we can all rest our minds that the crime has been solved. Now, in the midst of all this Russia bashing, it's put a huge strain on the British natural gas supply. They get a lot of natural gas from Russia, from Gazprom. They have contracts. Russia is still sending ships of liquefied natural gas because of the cold, hard winter. Gas supplies in Great Britain, and for that matter, all of Europe, are running dangerously low. And so Theresa May was asked about, is this really a good idea to annoy Russia when we're dependent on their natural gas? To which she replied, well, they're looking for other sources. They want to cancel the contract with Gazprom and get their natural gas someplace else, which is certainly their right. Now, Fox News and a lot of others have been running this story all day, saying that Russia has been attacking U.S. infrastructure going all the way back to 2016, mostly power stations. Oh, those dastardly, evil Russians. Now, as anybody who understands computers knows, the computers that control critical systems like power stations are not connected to the global internet, precisely for the reason that you don't want somebody coming on in and messing around with it. Blowing up a power station over the internet is the stuff of science fiction movies. It's not real. All right, we'll be back after station identification.
Extendivite, a 7-herb combination of garlic, cayenne, hawthorn, bilberry, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle. Extendivite is designed to strengthen the heart and arteries and help the body heal itself. Doctors are not able to explain the improvements they are seeing in their patients' health who are taking Extendivite. People who once needed more pills are now taking less and getting better. Due to the unexplainable improvements in their patients' health, more doctors are calling to order Extendivite for themselves. Help Extendivite make your doctor a believer. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here, hour number 2. And we were talking just before the break about how the corporate media's latest Russia fear-mongering is Russia's blamed for attacks targeting nuclear power plants in the United States and Europe and other critical utilities for the last 2 years. And a reminder, the computers that control critical systems like power stations, reactors, and so forth, they are not connected to the global internet. They're air-gapped precisely because they don't want anybody coming on in and messing with them. This idea that somebody can just come in over the internet and melt down a nuclear reactor, it's science fiction movies. And it looks good on the movie screen. I guess people believe that's what's going to happen. But no, that's not the way it works. It's just more fear-mongering. We actually had a brief power outage here on Oahu yesterday afternoon, and everybody was laughing and saying, "It's the Russians, it's the Russians." It's silly. This is just the updated version of Saddam has nuclear weapons. They're out there trying to convince you that if we don't go to war with Russia, that Russia is going to dump chemical weapons all over us and blow up all of our nuclear power plants. If Russia was really going to go to war with us, they would simply uncork their nuclear missiles. Now, the White House has come on out saying that the U.S. will keep up the pressure on Russia until they decide to change their behavior, which means sit down and stop interfering with U.S. domination of the world. That's what the real message is. Remember, we reported, I think it was about a week and a half ago, how one of our military commanders got up and said, those Russians, they're getting in the way of our dominating the world. Maybe the world doesn't want to be dominated. Ever think about that? Maybe the world doesn't want to be dominated by the United States when you look at how terrible conditions in this country have become. Maybe people in other countries like their clean, civilized, low-crime, beautiful countries, and they don't want to see them turned into, like Baltimore or Chicago. Now, down in Yemen, the Houthis have calculated that snipers are killing at least 6 Saudi soldiers every single day. It's a small number, but snipers can have a rather disastrous effect on an enemy's morale. And referencing back to that phone call about how tough the Syrian soldiers are and how hard it's really going to be to go on in, there's another factor besides their being battle-hardened after all these years of attempted U.S. invasion. They're fighting for their homes. They're fighting for their loved ones. They're fighting for things they can see right in front of their eyes, and that motivates them. When you have mercenaries like the U.S. has in Syria, They're just there for the money. They're not going to commit themselves to heroic actions where they might get killed. They want to live to catch that next paycheck. The same thing with conscripted troops. We have a lot of military on this island, and I talked to a lot of them, and none of them are believing any of this nonsense that's come on out about Saddam's nukes or Assad's sarin gas. They understand these are wars of conquest for wealth and gain. They're not motivated. I imagine the same thing is true of the Turkish conscripts that are going into the Kurdish areas. That's why the Syrians are able to resist the U.S. That's why the Yemenites have been so successful at resisting the Saudis. When you have a war between people who are just going in to invade the place to plunder it and the people who live there and want to defend it, the moral advantage is on the side of the defenders. Remember what Sun Tzu said in The Art of War. For a leader to prevail in war, he must have three things. He must have the appearance that the moral law is on his side. He must have troops who are willing to fight and die because they believe that moral law. And you have to have a civilian population willing to bear the hardships that war brings even to the victorious side because they believe they have the moral law. The United States does not have the moral law. Everybody on earth can see that. It's aggression for the sake of aggression. It's plundering and looting and hegemonic domination. And if the U.S. government thinks they're going to take all these illegal immigrants and put them in uniforms and hand them a gun and say, go on out there and kill somebody who will give you a green card, they're not motivated either. They're not emotionally connected to the U.S. And they certainly have little to think about where they're being sent. They're basically going to sit in their foxholes or behind the sandbags, or they're going to run when they get attacked. They're not motivated fighters. We're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are rejoining our network right now. Now, as you know, AIPAC just had their annual confab, big convention there, a lot of speakers, Benjamin Netanyahu, Mike Pence, all up there trying to outdo each other about how much they love Israel. But surprisingly, starting this year, AIPAC is suddenly getting a lot of bad press, including Jewish newspapers and even the Washington Post. And part of the criticism has to do with how overt AIPAC has made Jewish control of the U.S. government. The Jewish newspapers are screaming about the fact that the press was, for the most part, kept out of the AIPAC meetings. They held one on Israel and press freedom. The press was not allowed to attend. Now, AIPAC's annual budget, believe it or not, their revenue. By 2020, they will have $6.3 billion saved up. How many American politicians can you buy with $6.3 billion? Apparently, because all of them are willing to sell out, the price has gone down. So they could probably buy the entire Capitol building with that much money. But there is a bit of a pushback. AIPAC is admitting that progressives are deserting Israel. And it may be because progressives understand their movement is being hijacked to serve Israel's interests. We're seeing a decline in the so-called Christian Zionists who are figuring out how badly they've been exploited by Israel, how badly their faith and their religion has been twisted to serve Israel's agendas. Now, getting on over to Pakistan and India, the U.S. Pacific Command fully supports arming India with F-35s. What did India ever do to us? We're going to give them that junk plane. But apparently, India is considering a number of U.S. systems for purchase, all of which Pacific Command support. It includes F-16As, F-A-18s, like the one that just crashed off Key West, MH-60 Seahawks, and the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter. This from Admiral Harry Harris to the U.S. House Armed Services Committee last month. Now, China's Xi'an JH-7 fighter bombers, the Chengdu J-10 multi-role fighters, and J-11 air superiority fighters have all received new engine upgrades which allow them to reach higher altitudes. And apparently they have been carrying out exercises near their western border. And apparently they're working very, very well. Remember, the F-22 still has an artificial ceiling that it's not allowed to go above because of the problems with the aircraft's breathing system for the pilots here. All right, let's get on over to the economic news here. And again, corporate media is out there saying, it's fine, the recovery is strong, it's a strong economy, everything's wonderful. Jim Willie is saying that he expects a global reset within months. And Jim Willie is saying China and Russia are already preparing for it. He's saying the stock market could drop so much that you will see panic buying of gold, silver, and cryptos. Now, as we mentioned before, Toys R Us is going out of business. 30,000 jobs are going to be lost on that one. And it will have a ripple effect from toy makers to consumers to landlords. Everybody along the supply chain that's been supplying Toys R Us, they're going to see a drop in orders and revenue. And despite Sears' CEO touting progress, they've had a hard holiday quarter. Remember back during the holiday shopping season? Oh, it's great. People are in the stores. They're buying like crazy. And I said, it's just propaganda to goad you into go spending money. And apparently the propaganda didn't work. It was a horrible holiday shopping season yet again. Moody's is warning that there's going to be a deluge of retail bankruptcies. Well, if the retailers are all in trouble, where is this strong recovering economy that we keep hearing talk about? It's not lining up. We're not seeing the grassroots indications that the economy is doing any better. The rich are getting richer. The luxury market stores are doing just fine. But the middle class economy, it's stagnant. It's absolutely stagnant. We're seeing stores that have existed for 70 years vanish. Meanwhile, Congress is going to roll back Dodd-Frank so the bankers can have a free rein, predatory behavior. Trump wants to replace NAFTA with bilateral trade deals. We mentioned this briefly yesterday, but we're going to touch on it again today. iHeartMedia has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and yet somehow in the middle of all of this, their CEO got a $10.3 million bonus. And apparently the company has reached an in-principle agreement to restructure its debt. It's not good news for iHeart, but they're one of the largest media networks in the U.S. It was formerly known as Clear Channel, and they own over 850 stations. They have 2 that I'm aware of right here on Oahu. Now, China is starting to dump treasuries as foreigners start buying near-record stocks. Apparently, all this talk we've been hearing about China's economy is bad, China's economy is bad, is proven to be about as accurate as being told the U.S. economy is great. But apparently, they're doing a lot better than we are. Over in Italy, they have been suffering under years of the European Central Bank's quantitative easing and austerity, which has really crushed down the standard of living for the Italian people. But Italy's banks are still in trouble. They're calling it the doom loop. It could still implode and basically break up the Eurozone financial system. The Canadian economy seems to be in trouble, and as a result, Trudeau's approval ratings are heading down as well. A little bit of good news. Oklahoma Senate votes to wipe out tax breaks for the wealthy, potentially gaining $120 million a year into their state treasury. We're starting to see this idea of going back, that the people who have more should pay more. And as a matter of fact, Fox News on the last commercial break was running a story about a lawyer who has come forward with a suggestion that traffic fines be scaled to your income. So if you're not making a lot of money, you get a small fine on your violation. And if you're very, very rich, the fine goes up accordingly. And I think this makes perfect sense. I think it makes perfect sense. Inflation in Russia is now lower than America for the first time in history. So their economy is doing better than our economy is doing. Now, over in the world of Bitcoin, there's a report by Fundstrat's Tom Lee, and it says that Bitcoin mining earnings are almost at the point of breaking even as the activity has become less profitable because of a decline in the markets. The cryptocurrencies are headed down. And when you amortize the cost of those Bitcoin mining computers and the cost of the electricity and the cost of the facility that all those computers are in, unless they've been stolen, it's costing more to mine the Bitcoins than they're actually worth. And that was certainly true in the early days of Bitcoin, which is why I never got involved in that here. Now, Tesla is out there trying to market their affordable Model 3 sedan. The earlier Teslas, and they're beautiful cars, were very expensive. They were almost sold as a status symbol. But Tesla wants to move into the broader mid-range consumer market. But they've hit a couple of snags, and they keep having to push back their production and the release. And according to a report from CNBC, it's because Tesla has been churning out a high rate of flawed parts. Apparently, they value engineered the car just a little bit too much, and they're getting a high rate of failure. Now, I understand wanting to have the lowest cost to manufacture, but you have to keep the product at a certain quality or you're going to lose your customers. People are going to say, oh, yeah, it's a really inexpensive car, but man, they break down all the time. People make jokes about that. You know, what does Ford stand for? Fix or repair daily. I mean, believe it or not, our little Hyundai that we just got hit with a recall. I got to take it over to the dealership. There's apparently a part in the brake system that can fall off. Now, getting over to Europe and immigration, it's amazing. Recently, there have been several studies on IQ in Scandinavia, and they've been tracking it, saying that the overall average IQ in Scandinavia has been dropping rather rapidly. And apparently, the 65-year-old woman from the city of Jönköping has been charged with inciting race hatred, claiming that continued immigration will lead to lower IQ levels in the country. Now, the reality is that IQ is not a constant. And there have been studies that do show that different races do have different IQs. That's a reality. And all the PC liberal wishing is not going to change that. But there are now laws to criminalize saying things like that. There are laws criminalizing the statement of absolute scientifically verifiable fact. In Germany, Interior Minister Horst Seehofer came out with a comment saying Islam doesn't belong to Germany. He says Germany is characterized by Christianity. And the Muslims who live with us obviously belong to Germany. And I think a lot of people in Europe are getting very tired of this attitude of the refugees that want to come on in and turn it into another Islamic state. There have been attacks on churches. There have been attacks on Christians, church fires. Now, up in Sweden, they just voted to ban all religious schools. Apparently, this means Christian schools and Muslim schools. And, oh yeah, the Jewish schools are exempt from the new law. You can still have Jewish schools. You just can't have any other religious schools. After all, Sweden's government doesn't want to be called anti-Semitic or anything like that. I mean, that would just be silly on all that stuff. We're going to take another break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. This product is superb. I have been taking it for about a year now, and I can feel my cardiovascular system run like a Swiss watch. I definitely recommend this product for anyone that has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and heart palpitations, A+. It's potent, but it works. I have been waking up for the past 3 years with numb hands, and a week into using Extendivite, my numb hands seem to have cleared up. My circulation was off, and now it's back on track. So I'm happy. I feel so energized, and I have my husband on it now. My mother-in-law has cholesterol problems, so I bought her a bottle as well. Thank you so much. Love the product. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
For the past 14 years, it's been my privilege to host the National Intel Report on RBN, to offer a platform to interview exceptional guests, to provoke critical thought, and examine evidence, whether real, fake, or somewhere in between, and allow our audience to call in and participate with your input and questions in order to help us all reach an educated decision and arrive at our own truth. Our world has changed. It's now been turned on its head. Real is now considered fake, and mainstream fake is now pushed as real, rather than any clear thinking, consensus, or rationale.
Those few remaining beacons of light, the ones still shining through the mainstream media lies, propaganda, and deception, are being viciously attacked at every level through attempts at censorship, threatening advertisers, jailing hosts, and even killing journalists brave enough to speak the truth to you. We are in a war for our very freedom and existence, and through these despicable acts, freedom haters, collectivists, and communitarians have shown that they will stop at nothing to blot out these last few beacons of light. Truth is becoming increasingly more difficult to unmask, just as the term unmasking itself is spoken by those usually anonymous sources. They promote their lies, wishing to mask the truths by ignoring it, vilifying it, or conspiratorializing it into a black hole abyss.
Regrettably, RBN has reached the tipping point, and through internal audit and actuarial review, it has now been determined that the only life raft of survival to this network is to go the way of PBS, that being audience-supported. Like a cornered animal, the left with veracity is pulling out all the stops with every effort to effectively blacken our beacon forever. Help us, folks. Help yourselves. Don't let our light stop shining. Our motto has always been, because you can handle the truth. It's time to review your budget, folks. If you want the truth to keep flowing through RBN, go to republicbroadcasting.org and become a regular monthly donor of $30, $40, $50, or $100 or more a month and ensure you keep the truth flowing.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. We're going to talk about that horrible tragedy at the Florida International University with the collapse of the pedestrian bridge. Right now, they're removing the rubble. There are so far 6 dead. 9 were rescued from the rubble in various states of injury. And if you'll remember, when it first happened, there were all these stories being put out on the internet about a crane dropping something on the bridge, and it looks like somebody was trying to steer the investigation in certain directions. What we're now hearing from the experts is that apparently the bridge was undergoing what they call a stress test, and they were apparently tightening those support rods, and something happened. Now, I saw a copy of a video that was taken by a nearby security camera that actually caught the moment of collapse, and it was instantaneous and catastrophic. And if you'll remember the other day, I mentioned that one time here on Oahu, I was driving along the H1 freeway, and one of those tensioning rods let go and literally ripped up through the pavement. So it's quite spectacular. And we've had those same tensioning rods on the tracks for our light rail, and already some of those have had to be replaced. So apparently either a rod let go or they over-tightened it, and the NTSB is now involved. So they'll probably claim that Vladimir Putin did it. But obviously there was a defect in the engineering somewhere. This is looking more and more like a failure of the engineering. And it underscores the fact that the United States can't do the sort of things it used to do. Now, down in Austin, as you know, there have now been 3 bombings, package bombs, that basically blow up when touched. And the police are now saying that apparently these bombs are pressure activated, and they literally have to be assembled on the doorsteps, because inside the package there's just this little spring switch, and there's a weight put on the switch that is holding it in the closed position. And when you move the package, the weight comes off, the spring plate swings up, and that's what closes the contact on the detonator. So we don't know who's doing this. Probably those gosh darn Russians. But just be careful about packages left on your front porch. If it's not a recognizable delivery service like FedEx or UPS, you should be very, very careful. Now, I don't know about where you live. Where I live, regular postal packages, there is a box, large boxes, by the regular mailboxes. Packages go in there, the keys to that box go into your mailbox. So, again, a certain amount of caution. I have a feeling there are going to be more of these. We don't know the motive. We don't know who's doing it. There's been 3 victims. Doesn't seem to be any commonality among them. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a phone call. Kurt in Alberta, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi there. I was watching or listening to the show earlier, and you were talking about Trump and stuff. And personally, I just think he's just an extension of every president since the first Bush. The agenda is just going on, and he's no different than the rest of them. I mean, Sessions is there. He'll let the statute of limitations run out on Hillary. Everybody else, he'll resign. Somebody else will take his place. Nothing will happen. I mean, I just believe it's just an illusion for everybody to fight about something. So I'm not sure what you think about that.
I'm afraid you're right. But again, politicians normally don't like to see the faction fights visible to the public, because it does erode the public's confidence in the government. That's clearly happening here. And again, this is a symptom we saw in the former Soviet Union just prior to its collapse. We saw the same kind of factionalism leading to actual outright civil war preceding the fall of the Eastern Roman Empire. So again, I still think that this government is not going to survive much longer, especially if there's a major economic downturn and they don't have a war to blame it on. The American people are just going to turn on them. When they start getting hungry, that's when the rage will come out.
Yeah, I understand that, but I truly believe Trump is just part of the whole thing. I mean, he still has Haley in there. Everything is. He has done nothing for the average American. I mean, everything is done for the rich. Nothing's changed with Russia. Everything's getting worse. I mean, it's just an extension.
Well, I think our government has painted itself into an economic corner. And Trump has apparently been convinced that unless he goes along with the war agenda, he's going to be the last president of the United States of America. And he certainly doesn't want that on his resume. It's going to be heck to find work afterwards. Anyway, listen, Kurt, I need to let you go. We got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
If you are one of the millions of people who get migraines, you need to know about MiGrelief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist who created MiGrelief, the patented dietary supplement that addresses nutritional deficiencies in adults and children with migraines. Thousands of physicians and pharmacists recommend MiGrelief.
Call 800-MIG-7354 or visit MIG911.com.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus magful clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
Well, they're stealing down on Wall Street and in Washington too. Know it makes me wonder, what's a guy on Main Street to do? Always tried to be an honest, upstanding kind of guy. I must admit lately, I thought about giving something else a try. Oh, I want to be a pirate. I want to sail the 7 seas, yeah, I want to be a pirate.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to take 2 more phone calls, then we're going to close the phone lines again because I still have a lot of stuff to get through. And we're going to start with Dave in Missouri. Aloha, Dave. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, howdy, Mike. Hope your day's been blessed so far. Beautiful day here in the Ozarks. Hope it is there.
Yes, it is, actually.
I wanted to 73 here. Beautiful blue sky. White puffy clouds, Mike. It's weird. There's no lingering contrails. So evidently they've suspended all air traffic today. I don't know, kind of strange. But I just wanted to, that's a joke. I just wanted to add my voice to support RBN. You know, we've only really been listeners of yours for about 2 months. You introduced us to the network. And Amy and I decided we wanted to become contributors. But, you know, our pay varies through the month. So we didn't really know exactly what we'd be able to contribute every month. So we just picked, because I know RBN, like we do, has a budget. And so it's important that RBN knows what's going to come in so that we can budget. So what Amy and I decided to do was pick a low number with the intention of doubling it every month as we can. So, you know, we're going to sponsors now for $20 a month with the intention of being able to send you guys 40 or more. That's what we want to do. But, you know, it's not to strain our budget, but still to allow RBN to know they've got capital coming in to support. I just think it's something that people can consider. And I also throw all my change in my cup holder because I don't like it rolling around the truck here. And so that change is also going to be set aside at the end of the month to support organizations like yours that we believe in. Because really, if you don't put your money behind what you believe in and support those people who are actually educating the population rather than just feeding us propaganda. If you don't stand up and support independent media now, you're going to lose it. And when you're gone, Mike, when InfoWorld is gone, when the independent media has been silenced, and all we have is CNN and USA Today, Yahoo, when that's all that is left, they can do anything. They could assassinate Trump one day and say, hey, Hillary won the election all along. You guys were daydreaming. There was never a President Trump. What are you talking about? And, you know, a certain percentage of the population is going to believe the stupidity. So if you don't have somebody speaking the truth, you're overrun by stupidity, and more people listen to it. So that's just my 2 cents on that. I really want to challenge people to support RBN. And hey, Mike, you got to admit, this Vladimir Putin, he's a busy dude. I mean, where does he find time to do all this, Mike?
Yeah, and still get over here and steal my Honda.
He did. I know. I mean, it's just amazing. And you know, it kills me because all of this started from the DNC because they needed an excuse, something to blame the election on, rather than the fact that Hillary was so atrocious nobody could even hold their nose and vote for her. You know, the way people have always voted for presidents. You know, but nobody could even do that this time because she was so horrible. So they had to cook this Democrat or this Russian conspiracy up. And now, you know, after pushing it for a year and a half nonstop, now the UK's picked it up, and that's a convenient dodge for them. So I mean, it kind of makes you wonder where, or it's very evident in exposing that the deep state is more than just America. It is a globalist thing, and you know, hey, this excuse has been selling in America if you push it hard enough. So we're going to use it here too. But you know, it's terrifying to think about that Trump, I guess maybe he feels blackmailed into this. You know, he's been the big Russian polluter, so he has to make, a big stand against Russia. But it's dangerous, it's ignorant, it's foolish, and I just don't see how it serves our interests.
Well, it doesn't serve our interest. It serves the interests of the military-industrial complex. It serves the interests of Washington and Wall Street, who have wrecked this economy, and now they're looking for somebody to blame it on or a war to blame it on before it all comes apart. Because if they don't have a scapegoat prepared, when it all does come apart, the American people are going to turn on them. And getting on back to the first part, thank you very much for supporting RBN. And every little bit helps. And I'm sure there are people out there who are saying, I'd like to donate, but I only have like $5. Folks, $5 is $5. If everybody listening to me right now mailed a $5 check to RBN, think of all the good it can do. And remember, we can't just leave it up to the billionaires to buy our country. The little money has to unite together in opposition against the big money. And that's all that we're really asking for.
You're right. You know, I mean, it's amazing how, money can, or how multitudes can come together to really solve a problem. I've lost the words for that. One last little thing I wanted to point out, I was born on June 5th, 1967, the day the 7-Day War started out, where Israel attacked its neighbors, conquered 3 times its allotted landmass from the Golan Heights to the Red Sea. And when the USS Liberty was attacked by Israel, Johnson turned around the ship, sent in to save them. You remember all that?
I remember that.
Still, 51 years later, I'll be 51 this year, and there has still been no justice for the sailors of the Liberty. It is the Zionist fascists, I don't know what you want to call them. It is the Zionist controllers of the world who pull all the puppet strings. And, they own all the federal. My question to you on the economic front, if the Fed has to start buying more treasuries by printing more useless greenbacks to do so, how in the world are they ever going to control inflation when the treasury bubble bursts? Can you imagine what that's going to do to the value of the dollar? I mean,
absolutely.
This is economic suicide no matter how you slice it.
Yeah, but so the problem is the very concept by which private central banks work, they can't survive forever. Sooner or later, they get to a point where the debt gets so great, they have to get into hyperinflation to deal with the debt, and then it all starts coming apart.
My grandpa was a country banker. He always told me they only had a 100-year lifespan. So you got to give the Fed props for making it 5 years longer, than their expiration date. But you're right. I mean, we're at that point where just the weight of the volume of the stupidity with no legs under it, it's got to come down. And when you see them printing money to buy their treasuries, that's certain sign that it's not long to last. And the poor, the working poor, the families. Small businesses, they're the ones that are going to get hurt the most and feel the pain the most. But, Mike, I've got to jump because I got to hit this exit, brother. I love what you do. Can't wait for Lady Claire. Give her our love. And, yes, folks, please support RBN. We have to have organizations like this speaking the truth, or our children have no future. God bless you, Mike.
All right. Thank you very much for those kind words, and thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to take one more call before we close the lines again. James in Ohio, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi. I wanted to comment on the Novichok thing. From a chemistry perspective, it's almost all likely bovine excrement. Wiki has a page on Novichok agents, and about halfway down they have an image of the molecules supposedly used. So the one pictured on the left is so ultra reactive, it would explode into useless molecular fragments when it come into contact with anything. Furthermore, I'm actually kind of dubious that it would survive long enough to be made in a laboratory, but carried out into the field and things. Organophosphate esters are notoriously sensitive to heat, light, moisture, and vibration, and even when kept in ideal conditions, separated from air, moisture, light, and heat, they will break down all on their own.
Yes.
But it's kind of a head scratcher how they make it from the release point to get into the body to do what they do. But
well, again, according to the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons Scientific Advisory Group, they're not convinced it's real. And it all goes back to this one book by this former Soviet, actually Uzbeki chemical weapons scientist.
Yeah, the real clincher for me, though, was that now they're saying it's a binary agent. In other words, two chemicals mixed together in the field to make the final agent. This is what's called in the chemical trade a one-pot reaction, and with organophosphate esters, those type of things just don't exist. The synthesis of these chemicals is very tricky. You have to be like unfortunately, you have to be like a very skilled university-trained chemist with years of experience in industry or scientific research. Fortunately, you can't teach yourself like making meth or something. But the idea that this is a binary agent that you mix up in the field, I think their source must be General Jack Ripper or somebody like that. And I also want to say that if I donate to the What Really Happened show, and I want people out there to keep in mind that if they don't, Mike's going to have to return to his career in exotic dancing to support the show, and nobody wants
What do you
that.
think I lost all this weight for?
Oh, yeah, right. All right. Well, that's all I got for you.
All right. Well, thanks an awful lot
Thanks,
there.
sir.
Yes, I already got the Gold Lame undies on standby in case I need it. All right. We're going to close the phone lines here and get on back to the news. Article out of Gatestone Institute, U.S. trying to criminalize free speech again. And they're talking about House Resolution 257, which is titled Condemning Hate Crime and Any Other Form of Racism, Religious or Ethnic Bias, Discrimination, Incitement to Violence, or Animus Targeting a Minority in the United States. Rather long-winded. And basically was put together or sponsored by Senator Kamala Harris, co-sponsored by Senator Marco Rubio, and Senator Dianne Feinstein and Senator Susan Collins. Apparently, there's a Senate version of the same bill. And what it's going to be used for is to basically silence anybody's concerns about the refugees, as well as to criminalize any criticism of the government of Israel. Now, freedom of speech is an absolute. And they're trying to take it away from us by saying, oh, well, you know, free speech is less important than making sure nobody's offended. That's the new liberal thinking out there at UC Berkeley here. Now, apparently, at a recent Intelligence Squared debate, there was literally a full auditorium at Yale University talking about free speech is threatened on campus. And at the event's conclusion, they ran a poll of the audience. 66% of those in attendance agreed free speech is threatened. That's a 17-point shift from a poll taken as the event began. The evidence is that pervasive. Story out of The Intercept. The greatest threat to campus free speech is coming from Dianne Feinstein and her military contractor husband. They want us all to just sit down and shut up and do as we're told. That's not the American way. It really isn't. Now let's get on back to this recent gun walkout. It's caused quite a few reactions here. One of the worst is that up in Chicago, the school released a bunch of black students to go and join the gun control march. And the students decided they could show their support for gun control by trashing the local Walmart. And Chicago police are still trying to identify the dozens of students from Simeon Career Academy who they say took part in a vandalism spree when they were out there supposed to be protesting guns. So that didn't work out very well. Now, out in California, there's a high school teacher, Rockland High School teacher, Julianne Benzel, was saying that there's a double standard in walkouts because, and she's been put on leave for pointing this out, that the students were allowed by the school administration to walk on out and join the anti-gun protests, but if a group of students wanted to walk out of school to go protest abortion, would that be allowed by the administration? And she said, if you're going to allow students to walk up and get out of class without any penalty, then you have to allow any group of students that wants to protest to do the same. And she was suspended. Or actually, she's on leave. But she makes a valid point. It underscores the fact that our schools are little more than liberal propaganda mills. Now, in Pennsylvania, at the Penridge High School, they're issuing over 200 detentions to students that walked out and took part in the protest. I think that's a good thing. If these students wanted to join an anti-gun protest, outside of school hours, that's fine. That's their First Amendment right. But this was organized to literally have the students walking out of school during the school day. And that was, the planners had to know that was going to get some of them in trouble. In fact, in rural Arkansas, 3 students actually got paddled for walking out of the school to take part in Wednesday's protest. And by the way, if you are one of those students, you might want to check your backpack, because apparently in a South Carolina school, a custodian was caught stealing money from students' book bags while they were outside protesting against the guns. Now, in Hillard, Ohio, there was a high school student, Jacob Shoemaker, and he goes to the Hilliard Davidson High School. He was a senior, and he said he didn't want to walk out, that he was neutral on the gun control debate, and he was promptly suspended. And it is another reminder, schools are not about creating independent, self-sufficient thinking people, but about indoctrinating students into the globalist leftist agenda of voluntary slavery. Now, out in Alabama, this is going to get this guy in trouble. State Representative Harry Shiver basically came out opposed to the idea of arming teachers to deter mass school shootings. And his reason for not arming teachers is because most of them are women. Now, that really is very silly. If you've been over to the Front Sight Training Academy and looked at their video, you'll see they have just as many women as men training how to use firearms in combat situations. That was a very stupid thing for this guy to say, but they're grasping at straws. They want the schools left unguarded. They want more of these mass shootings until Americans say, enough is enough, you can have my gun. That will never happen, unfortunately. We're going to take another break for commercials, and we will be right back.
Hey, honey, I'm home. I grabbed a newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, the majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper doesn't give out the important attention of what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
I'm getting older and noticing that my body just doesn't work as well as it used to. So I like to keep fit as possible by hitting the gym a few times a week. Recently, I started having a nagging bicep pain, and it got so bad I couldn't even lift the weights. When I was complaining about it to a friend, he told me about Angioprim. He said chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages. You know, after just 1 week of taking Angioprim, the pain was gone, and now I'm back in the gym full strength. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. So to learn more, go to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com, or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim toll-free at 877-882-7221. You'll feel better with more energy. Call 877-882-7221 or go to the website angioprim.com.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil. for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
Do you worry a lot? Whether you're a college student, busy professional, parent, or grandparent, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in 1 to 2 weeks. Call 1-800-758-8746 or calmandclever.com.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're wrapping up on the issue about the anti-gun protest, the staged, manufactured, bought, and paid for anti-gun protests on Wednesday. And it's landed a lot of students in trouble. It's landed some teachers in trouble. Very contentious issue. But we all need to remember something. That Second Amendment is essential in safeguarding both against crime and tyranny. That's why the Founding Fathers gave us that Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is the teeth behind the other 9 in the Bill of Rights, and they're all under attack. They're chipping away at it bit by bit by bit. And if the government is treating us this bad while we're still armed, just imagine how much worse it is going to be if they succeed in disarming us. And remember, every genocide in the 20th century was preceded by a gun ban on the targeted population. And with all this talk about removing whiteness, we know who the targeted population is. Story coming out of News from the Perimeter. Apparently there is a leak from inside the investigation into the Mandalay Bay shooting that says low-level investigators were told to relax and not follow all the clues. Now, we heard the other day that it was confirmed that the accused shooter, Stephen Paddock, did have other people up there with him. We already knew that because of that second broken out window in the adjacent suite. And the FBI was literally ordered not to interview those other suspects. So the leaks are coming from seasoned investigators who are saying the investigation is tainted for reasons far above their pay grades. In other words, it's coming from up high. Law enforcement officers are trained to hunt and find the bad guys, and when their own bosses become an obstacle, suspicions begin to spill over, and apparently that's what happens. Now, down in Houston, there are these 4 police department officers, Rudolph Farias, John Garcia, Robert Manzanales, and Gregory Rosa, who were running a ticket scam. And if you recently got a ticket from one of these 4 officers, it is going to be dismissed. Apparently, the officers are under investigation. One of them, supposedly, has already committed suicide in his patrol car. But these guys were raking in $100,000 with this little scam. Another police officer is suing the mother of a boy killed in a crash. He was heading to a crime scene. Now, this officer has a long history of getting into accidents, and he basically plowed into this car, and he's suing the mother, saying that she failed to yield to his car. Kentucky police are now warning reporters not to report news until the police gives them permission. I wonder what's going on in Kentucky where they have to sort of slap that down. And meanwhile, a New York Police Department officer was arrested and is jailed for running a massive cross-country heroin traffic ring. All right, we're coming up here on our station identification, and when we come on back, we will have the lovely Lady Claire with us.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here, hour number 3. And for those of you watching on YouTube, this gorgeous creature sitting next to me is the lovely Lady Claire.
Aloha.
Who, with her own unique perspective on the world. Before you get into your news, I want to ask you a question. I was talking about this earlier in the program. You and I are both old enough to remember the Cold War, the first one.
Oh, yeah.
Where it was always talk of confrontation and Russia's bad, Russia's evil, we've got to arm ourselves against them. But am I right in thinking that this feels different? This isn't just about looting the American people for the benefit of the military-industrial complex. This, to me, feels like they're pushing for an actual, real confrontation.
Oh, heck yes.
That's a very scary thought. I mean, we're hearing all this heavy military aviation going on out there, and it's actually a very scary time. I'm starting to have nightmares about all this stuff. Mushroom clouds out the window.
It's very difficult, and I agree with you that Putin is saying, guys, please don't do this. And this article comes to us from Zero Hedge, which I have found over the years to be a very sober blog. And they're talking about the New York Times appears to have had something written by Pee Wee Herman. Finally, Trump has something bad to say about Russia. Now, this is reaching a very critical moment because through the video, Putin has demonstrated that hypersonic soundless warjet that they've created does exist.
Yeah, it's a hypersonic ramjet. So at least one of the weapons actually does exist.
Yeah.
But the Pentagon and the DOD are saying, no, it's all a giant bluff. We will win the war against him. Well, we're not doing too good with the wars we've already got, and those are against third world nations that are not military peers. And Russia and China are military peers to the United States, or close to it. And if Russia and China team up together, then, again, I think the U.S. is going to lose conventionally.
Yeah.
And at that point, they're going to start resorting to the nuclear arsenal.
Yeah, it's very interesting. There seems to be a hunger, an almost palpable hunger, for a war against Russia reaching a fever pitch in the bowels of power of D.C., not because it is morally right and the U.S. would morally have the high ground, but it's something with which the U.S. government hopes they can distract us, because as you and I both know, Mike, there's going to be a major economic collapse coming, and it's something that the federal government ultimately is not going to be able to prop up.
Well, don't forget the globalist agenda as well, because Russia and China have already signaled they don't want to be part of a new world order. They want to maintain their independence and their sovereignty, and the globalists need Russia and China to be smashed, and they're going to use the U.S. military to try and do it.
Yeah, yeah. The operative word here is try.
Yes.
But I have to say something about the attitude both of callers that you've shared with me and people in general. And if any of Theresa May's minions are listening to this, which you may well be, I need you to think about it. The U.S. government is having one heck of a time right now because now the American people are very skeptical, as they have every right to be, when it comes to its leadership declaring war, just starting to attack the allegedly bad government the U.S. doesn't like. But I would like to warn President Trump and anyone who has his ear, and also Prime Minister Theresa May of the UK, when a government has lost its credibility by lying the American people or the British people into a war that was not necessary, I would like to emphasize credibility is delicate, and once it gets broken, once that trust with we the people is broken and severed, governments lose it forever. It doesn't matter who gets elected.
Takes a long time to come on back here.
If it ever does.
Trust arrives on foot but departs on horseback.
Yeah, yeah. I know you spoke a little bit about this earlier, but I'd like to address it. Neocon specter of John Bolton looms over Trump White House. And I found something out with this article that I did not know about Mike Pompeo, who has been nominated as Secretary of State. He's a Christian Dominionist.
Oh, boy.
Holy Hieronymus Bosch.
Boy.
Please, Lord.
Oh, boy. The reason we're groaning, for those of you who don't understand.
Sarah Palin.
Well, Sarah
Yeah.
Palin. But
Yeah.
the Christian Dominionists actually believe it's their duty to bring about the end of the world so that the rapture can happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
And which makes them very geopolitically dangerous from the ideology from which they come. It's not a Christianity that is of service and of love and of kindness to their fellow brother and sister human being. That's just the polar opposite.
You know, I can picture somewhere down the road,
Oh.
a couple of years or so,
Yeah.
Mike Pompeo is standing in the ashes of planet Earth, and he's
Yeah.
up there saying, "Okay, God, you can come to Earth now. I killed everybody.
It's okay.
God, I did it. Come on." Anyway, we're going to take a moment to do a shout out to our on-air affiliates who are rejoining our network.
Mm-hmm. And my whole assessment of this, if, and please heaven that it not happen, should it happen, this is going to be officially horrible for the United States
It's going
and
to be
the
horrible
world.
for the world.
Yeah.
I mean, once this thing goes nuclear, everybody's just going to say, we can't take the chance of waiting.
Mm-hmm.
The U.S. government has gone crazy. They're making war on everybody.
Yeah.
We're sure we're on that list somewhere. Let's just take whatever nukes we have and fling them.
Yeah.
And there are probably a lot more nuclear weapons out there than are officially acknowledged, because remember, Israel was exposed for, first of all, developing clandestine nuclear weapons with the former government of South Africa. And when that government fell, paperwork surfaced showing that Israel tried to sell a nuclear weapon to South Africa, under the table, black market.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that Israel had other customers other than the former government of South Africa. So there may be some nuclear weapons out there that we don't know about, and we don't know where they are or who's got them, and how the people who do have those weapons feel about the United States.
Yeah, that could get very, very messy. There is supposed to be a vote next week to pass on the issue of whether the United States government and military has authority to be working with the Saudis in Yemen. Now, it's supposed to be.
I'd like to do a little clarification there.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, the U.S. military works with other militaries. We
Yeah.
certainly did that in World War II.
Right.
The debate here is over the war powers.
Right,
and
right.
which are, according to the Constitution, vested with Congress.
Yes.
Now, the president has a limited authority to
Mhm.
deploy the U.S. military for a limited amount of time. and then Congress has to basically approve or reject the continuation of the war.
Mhm.
But we have had, ever since George Bush got that authorization for the use of military force from Congress, presidents since then have been using that as a carte blanche to simply start a war wherever they want. And
With impunity.
With impunity.
Yeah.
And by the way, Bush lied to get that authorization. He was talking about Iraq's weapons of mass destruction and Iraq's involvement in 9/11, and he knew he was lying when he said it.
Mhm.
Fraud negates consent.
Yeah.
So legally, were this to go to the Supreme Court, I'm sure the Supreme Court would rule that the congressional authorization for the use of force is null and void, and hence every single war declared by a president since then is technically illegal. But Congress is trying to basically regain their constitutional authority to be in control of the war machine.
Which I think is absolutely a good thing.
I agree it's a good thing.
But there may be some monkey wrenches in this, and there are some people in Congress who are trying to stall the vote, arguing that the issue is too divisive and that the matter needs to be kicked back to a committee for closer study. And Senator Bob Corker said he endorsed the Pentagon's argument, saying the U.S. does so much military engagement around the world that it would be dangerous to think the War Powers Act could apply to all of it.
That's absolutely right.
yeah.
The original intent of the War Powers Act is it gives the president the authority to respond to an attack on the United States of America.
Yeah.
And the War Powers Act originally began back at a time before instantaneous global electronic communication.
Right.
When it was expected it could take as much as a week for Congress to get together to debate the matter. And that was the original purpose. Well, today, everybody's on everybody else's speed dial. And the War Powers Act, it's not a license to just destroy whoever you don't like.
Yes.
And it not only needs to be brought back within its original limits, it needs to actually be shaved back.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And, but the reality of this situation is that the U.S. has armed, provided guidance, and mid-air refueling to the Saudi military.
Well, there's also U.S. grounds on the boot in Yemen. That's come on out.
Yeah. To me, there is absolutely nothing divisive about this. It is as real a statement of fact as are the other horrible facts about Yemen 3 years on with no resolution in sight. Now, Saudi forces have killed innocents, non-combatants, infants, children, toddlers, women, and the medically fragile elderly. Because they have blockaded the ports of Yemen with U.S. help, and food is very hard to grow in this part of the world, there's no food getting in, consequently.
And that, too, is considered a war crime.
Yeah, consequently, people are not only dying, and I mean, the images that you see, these children dying of malnutrition, it's just heartrending. And now we've got cholera, which possibly was weaponized, and diphtheria all over the country, generating an horrific health crisis. And the skyrocketing increase in massive fetal abnormalities indicates that Saudis have been using depleted uranium. And the results are predictable on Yemen's kids. And
depleted uranium
Yeah.
ought to be banned. It's
Yes.
basically radioactive waste.
Yeah.
It's made from the stuff that's left over after you enrich weapons grade uranium. The other
Mhm.
uranium left over can't be used in reactors or bombs, but it is still radioactive.
Yeah.
And it's considered usable as a projectile, either in a gun or
Mhm.
artillery or the tip of a missile, because it's actually denser than lead and connects more energy to the target. That's the rationale. But it is radioactive. Many years ago, when I was working at this software company that was driven out of business by a virus on the master duplication disk on a game, one
Ooh.
of my fellow programmers had served in the military as the loader for the A-10 tank buster, which uses depleted uranium munitions. And in theory, it's supposed to be safe when it's in its metallic form. The story goes that when it vaporizes on impact, if you inhale the dust, that's when you're really contaminated. But this programmer was dealing with cancer and he passed away. So.
And this morning I attached an image of a Yemeni child exposed to DU in the womb. And I think I've linked to it before a couple of times, but there's part of me that just wants to grab through the screen and hold that child and comfort it, because that child is never going to have a normal life, ever.
If it even survives.
Yeah.
If
And
it even survives.
in my world, the poisoning of a kid in the womb with this weapon is criminal and inhuman beyond belief.
It is evil.
You know, and what gets me is the guy who ordered this campaign is not an uneducated man. Prince Mohammed bin Salman is a very bright guy, wound up getting a law degree at the University of Riyadh, wound up second in his class. He's no dummy. But I have to ask, could this hatred of the Iranian Shias who were acting as advisors to the Houthi rebels be so great as to cause him to order the death by direct military assault, starvation, and disease of non-combatants in Yemen's kids? Apparently the short, sad answer is yeah. You know, there is that much hatred. And anything he can do, he thinks, to destroy these rebels, he's hurting Iran. But I've got to tell you, Mike, when you destroy the children of a country, as we see Israel doing with Palestine, you destroy the country's future.
Common Core is doing that to our kids.
Oh, boy. History is not going to be kind to this guy. And I understand that he is known by many honorifics in Saudi Arabia because he's Saudi royalty. History and the world, however, are going to remember this man as the butcher of Yemen.
Well, you know, the problem is that there is so much hate between these religions, and it's completely unjustified because all of these religions go back to the same source.
Yes,
Abraham.
Abrahamic. Yeah.
Abraham created the first monotheistic religion, and it may have been that Amenhotep IV or Akhenaten heard of it, thought it was a good idea, which led to the Amarna period in Egypt. But basically, it started out as Judaism, and then, of course, Jesus came along, and the religions split, and they've been hating each other, each one saying, we're the true religion, you're the phonies. Then Muhammad comes along and splits off Islam, and then Islam splits into Sunni and Shia, and they're always throwing rocks at each other. Pogroms, inquisitions, crusades, and so forth. I mean, all this bloodshed throughout history in this endless argument over whose deity has the biggest dick.
Well, for some that may be true. It's not for me. But getting back to this, trying to kick this this legislation back upstairs, Senator Corker, the U.S. government has got to stop this madness. Because, according to our Constitution, only Congress can declare war. It has not done so in Yemen.
Okay.
And yes, the War Powers Act was developed to make sure that the executive would not unilaterally go ahead and haul off on someone, that Congress made that declaration. Now, I don't know what portion of his portfolio exists in weapon stocks, but I do know his net worth, at least close. Now, Google, our friendly Google, has scrubbed the articles on this. Error messages right, left, upside down, and backwards. But there are always other places to go.
Imagine my shock.
Yeah, to find such facts. And apparently, and the story is from 2015, Senator Corker undervalued his wealth by millions. And the man is worth $18 million. And this is on a congressional senator's pay. So I have to hold my head and say, go figure. And
Well,
yeah.
Almost all the members of Congress are wealthy way beyond their visible means.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And Senator Schatz, whose office I called last week to encourage him to vote for this bill, Senator, you owe me, sir, a phone call, please. Or have your alleged constituents with a point of view on this war different from that of your own become expendable and irrelevant in the state of Hawaii. Just checking.
Well, funny story about Senator Schatz. Apparently, he lives very close to us.
Yeah.
Two
Halloweens
ago, during the height of the 2016 election, Halloween's a big deal for us. We always have candy and decorations out for the kids and everything.
Lots of little ones.
Lots of little ones. The neighborhood is filling up with little ones, which
Yes.
makes it a lot of fun. I was wearing my Hillary for Prison T-shirt, and Brian Schatz and his kids came along to get the candy, and Brian Schatz comes running up the walkway saying, "Hi, I'm Senator Schatz," and he holds his hands out. Then he finishes reading the shirt,
And he
turns
runs.
right around, and he runs
Sprints.
away.
Oh, my goodness. But there is a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel with this whole thing in Yemen. And if it can move forward, hopefully it will. My fingers are crossed. Apparently, delegations from the Saudi government and the Houthi rebels have been talking for the last 2 months
Well,
about developing a political settlement.
Well, the Houthis have made it very, very clear.
Yep.
They're a lot tougher to deal with than the Saudis expected.
Yeah.
And the Saudis want to turn their attention to Iran, so they have to start pulling back out of these places. And
Yeah.
it's like I said earlier in the show, Saudi Arabia and the U.S., conscripted troops, mercenaries, they're just fighting for the paycheck, or they're just fighting because they're told to do it.
Yeah.
The people who are actually in these countries, Yemen, Syria, they're fighting for their homes and loved ones. They're
Yes.
fighting for things they can see with their own eyes.
Yeah.
They are far better motivated. All right, we have to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
Many people write about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you a few from Amazon.com. My wife and I both use Extendivite and are very pleased with the results. It has helped to stabilize our blood pressure and to make both of us feel healthier. Good product and good buy. So far, so good. I've been taking Extendivite 3 times a day, only a short while now, but already I've noticed the circulation in my hands and feet improving. They tingle. I like the idea of taking something herbal rather than pills. I take Extendivite 3 times a day, every day. I think this supplement has helped with my increased fitness regime and to lower my blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And Claire, what is next on your list?
Well, I noticed in antiwar.com this morning, again, a serious blog with a lot of good things to say. McMaster has made the observation that U.S. troops will stay in Syria until Syria is stabilized. Now, this is in spite of the fact that the U.S., Russians, and others have effectively liberated 100% of ISIS-held territory in Syria. National Security Advisor McMaster dismissed the idea that U.S. forces might withdraw from the country anytime soon.
And of course, the idea that the U.S. was in Syria to get ISIS was one of the more recent lies.
Yes.
You know, before that, it was Assad was gassing his own people.
Yeah.
And Assad is a terrible dancer.
Yes.
And, you know, Assad refused to share his cookies with us.
Yes.
And an endless series of lies. What they mean by stabilization is they still want Bashar al-Assad out and a U.S.-controlled puppet in.
Absolutely.
But Assad doesn't want to go along with that. Assad is demanding the U.S. leave.
Yeah.
Russia's demanding the U.S. leave. The U.S. is talking about military strikes on the Syrian army because of what's going on up in Ghouta. And now Russia is saying that any attacks on Syria, the Russia will attack the U.S. military.
Yeah.
And again, they've come on out with this unproven claim that Assad was gassing his own people, even though Assad does not have the chemical weapons, but the U.S.-backed rebels do. In fact, some of those chemical weapon supplies are actually labeled with American companies where the stuff is coming from. But it looks like what the U.S. is planning on doing is setting off another one of these bogus gas attacks, at which point Donald Trump is going to launch another round of these million-per-shot cruise missiles into Syria. And then now they're talking about going right to Damascus and hitting the government quarter, a decapitation strike. And there are a lot of Russian personnel in that area.
Mike, could you back up a second for me, honey? Who has been talking about this publicly? Where did you see it?
The
decap.
The decap strike. That came out. That came through yesterday. Where the U.S. was saying that if there was another Assad provocation, that Donald Trump was considering an attack on the government quarter of Damascus.
Oh boy!
Which is, you know, obviously where the government buildings are, and Assad is. And Assad has a rather nice house, high up on a hill, easy to see. That's a bad decision on his part. And the Russian has come back and said, if we feel our people are being threatened, we will attack the U.S. military. Now, the only weapons the U.S. has right now that stand a reasonable chance of being able to make it from the point of launch to Damascus are cruise missiles or ballistic missiles, because if they cross into that part of Syria with regular military aviation, they will be met in force by Syrian and Russian military aviation, and then we're going to have that high-altitude furball up in the sky.
Yeah, yeah. So the translation of McMasterese, if I understand you correctly, is that the U.S. is going to neutralize Syria, I love that word, before it tackles regime change in Tehran, even if that potentially means war with Russia.
Well, that's where it's definitely going, and it's a dangerous game of brinksmanship. Putin doesn't want war, but I'm sure he's getting ready to fight one. Because he understands after Iran, it will be Russia.
Yeah, yeah. It's very scary over there. And Mike, how long do you think that such an engagement may take to start?
If it's non-nuclear, you mean the Syria versus the Russian military?
No, the Russian military versus the U.S. in Syria.
It's hard to say because I imagine if Russia attacks the U.S. military in Syria, the U.S. will see that as an escalation, send in more forces. It could rapidly spin out of control. But everybody needs to remember something very important. The U.S. has no legal right to be in Syria. There's been no congressional declaration of war.
Yep.
There's no resolution from the United Nations Security Council.
Nope.
Syria doesn't want the Americans in there. Russia doesn't want the Americans in there. You know, the U.S. is basically stomping around somebody else's home in muddy and blood-soaked boots.
Yeah, yeah. This, I do not see how we can win this. And on top of that, there is no way that the United States has the moral high ground here.
Well, we don't have the moral high ground, but the Brookings Institute has already come on out and said that the U.S. has a plan B. If they cannot, in fact, get Assad out, their plan is to basically carry out a scorched earth campaign and leave Syria in such ruins that Assad can be bypassed on the road to Tehran.
Ouch.
We're off on the road to Tehran. You got to be our age to appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah, you do. You definitely do. There are some very striking images there were yesterday in Russia Today. And I encourage our listeners and readers to read the foreign press in English, even if you disagree with them.
While we still can.
Yeah,
While we
yeah.
still- Okay, we got to take another break for
Okay.
commercials, and
All
we
right.
will be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigraLief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MigraLief migraine formula. MigraLief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MigraLief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to mig911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354 or visit mig911.com.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Do you know there is an ongoing war right here in America? Are you aware that U.S. citizens have been classified as enemies of the state since 1933? Have you recognized that our entire government is really a vast network of interlocking corporations engaged in commerce? Look up Title 28, Section 3002. Tune in to In Defense of Humanity on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Find out what's really going on and learn how to protect yourself and your family as flesh and blood men and women living in a corporate reality.
What
I sure would like to know if they don't do something by and by. The rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, I mean the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay. Unemployment getting
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. And I see you have the article up here about 12,500 civilians able to evacuate Ghouta, and it's great that they're able to get on out. Basically, one of the reasons the U.S. is trying to crank up an excuse to go back into Syria is they've lost.
Yeah.
The U.S.-backed rebels are surrendering their weapons. They're being allowed to leave under a Russian brokered deal. The U.S. doesn't really have a reason to be there. They're just staying because they don't want to admit they lost this one.
Yeah.
They're staying in Afghanistan for the same exact reason. Right now, America's military is hooked on the myth of America's unbeatable military might. And because we've never lost a war. Well, we didn't exactly win Vietnam, and we didn't exactly win North Korea.
No.
But if the U.S. is forced out of Syria and Afghanistan, and now Iraq wants the U.S. to leave, it's going to be seen as a defeat. And the myth of U.S. military supremacy is going to take a serious dent. Oh, that's an interesting one.
Yeah. Right at the end of his administration, President Obama's Department of Justice ordered 500,000 fugitives deleted from background check database.
Now, is that the background check database they use to find out if somebody should be allowed to buy a gun or not?
I do not know. I'm not sure if it's the same or not. But it ordered the removal of over 500,000 fugitives with outstanding arrest warrants from the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, NICS, in late 2016, according to testimony from acting FBI Director David Bodrich. And he set the figure, he confirmed in a November report that after Dianne Feinstein asked him if more than 500,000 names were dropped. And what they did, the FBI purged the names from the legal database after its Justice Department, the Obama Justice Department, or as Mike and I like to say, Just Us Department, changed its legal interpretation from fugitive of justice to say it pertains only to wanted people who have crossed state lines. Abso-flipping-lutely unbelievable, Michael.
Well, in principle, I understand what they're saying, because technically the FBI has jurisdiction for crimes that take place across state lines, where it passes out of the jurisdiction of the state authorities. But on the other hand, a fugitive is a fugitive, and I don't agree with them being taken off this NICS.
No.
Because if they are fugitives...
they're going to offend again. They're going to hurt people.
Yeah.
Okay. And I have to tell you, this is one of the things about Obama. Beside his faux populism, oh, I'm one of you. No, he wasn't. He was moneyed, which used to drive me up the wall. The other thing I don't like about him is that he is sneakily, enormously punitive to people he doesn't like. And so how better do you welcome an incoming president, not your choice, he thought, than to make sure that 500,000 or more criminal fugitives were still on the streets and not getting arrested for their crimes. Must have made him feel good.
Well, that sounds like a pretty real motive for him to have done that.
You know, after all, he massively increased the number of extrajudicial drone assassinations.
Say that 3 times fast.
Oh, I can't. Committed by U.S. forces overseas, way beyond those of Bush. It must have given him a real sense of power over life and death itself. Even when the guy had to realize, because he is no intellectual slouch, that the drone assassinations were simply creating more radicalized individuals among the survivors. leading to nearly a perpetual state of war in the Middle East and Africa, as we are seeing right now.
That may have actually been the goal.
Yeah.
To radicalize the Mideast to justify military interventions. Do you remember when Obama was joking about the drone strikes? When
Yeah.
He was talking about his daughters who were, coming of age and going
Uh-huh.
to school, and he said, "I have a message to all you boys out there."
Yeah, I remember.
Predator drone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody laughed. The president's being so funny again.
Yeah. It's a joke that's told to people who dare not laugh many times, though, especially the people who got hurt.
Yes.
Putin has finally come up with a response about what he calls the UK's destructive, provocative stance in the Skripal case. And this is the first thing he's had to say publicly. And he said he was extremely concerned by the stance of the UK, and a detailed discussion of the current crisis in UK-Russia relationships was held. Putin met with his top officials from the Russian government, military, and security services, and made the comment, and on Thursday, Press Secretary Dmitry Peskov said extreme concern was expressed about the destructive and provocative stance taken by the British side. And it was his first public reaction.
Well, he's holding his cards close to his chest.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, he's holding his chess pieces close to his chest.
Yes, his Kevlar, which I hope he does. Theresa May is now expelling 23 diplomats, limiting ties, and freezing Russian state assets. Now, Mike, this doesn't seem to have been something Putin would have done.
No, he doesn't have a reason.
Yeah, and
I
why?
mean,
Yeah.
Skripal did what he did
Yeah.
many, many years ago.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And
So
he had a lot of enemies, so you can't say it was Russia. Putin's got elections coming on up. He's trying to
Sunday.
normalize relations.
Yeah.
He's getting ready for the World Cup to be held in Russia.
Mhm.
He's got no reason for doing this.
Yeah.
Who benefited from this? Obviously, the anti-Russia agenda.
Mhm. And so he had nothing to gain. He had absolutely nothing to gain. But what we do have is a very embattled British Prime Minister hoping to deflect some very honest British rage and frustration about how she's handling the Brexit issue with the EU. And she thought maybe that blaming and shaming Russia for something it may not have done, just the ticket. And remember that old phrase of Rahm Emanuel, never let a good crisis go to waste? And we don't know enough about what really happened to lay the foundation for an evidence chain yet. And that may only come about when Skripal and his daughter get conscious enough to give investigators a timeline of what happened right before they became ill.
And what the context is.
Yeah.
Now, of course, the good news is apparently Great Britain actually, has now declared this an attack by Russia using chemical weapons on British soil, and they actually went to NATO to invoke Article 5 of the NATO Charter.
Mm-hmm.
NATO came on back and said, no. Just for this one incident,
We're not
it would
going
be an
there.
overreaction here.
Yeah.
And so now they're changing the story. We're back to Saddam and his nuclear weapons, with
Mhm.
people like Nikki Haley saying that if we don't stop Russia now, Russia is going to use chemical weapons on New York City and cities around the world.
Mhm.
Well, we've been down this path before.
Yeah.
If we have to make war on them first, or they're going to do horrible things. Again, why would Putin attack the United States of America? He's trying to avoid a war. And the U.S. has a policy. If they're attacked with chemical weapons, it's a weapon of mass destruction, they'll respond with weapons of mass destruction. That's the whole point of having a deterrent, is
Yep.
people aren't going to do that.
Yep.
Folks, we're being set up for another false flag to get us into a major, major war that I am convinced the U.S. is going to lose.
Right.
And if it goes nuclear, everybody's going to lose.
Yeah. And I wanted to bop back to Amazon because it was bragging about its influence over the election by promoting pages and hiding pages. Well, that's not the only thing they've been doing. Apparently, Amazon.
I think that was Facebook that was bragging about
okay.
hiding. But
My
I did see this
apologies.
one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amazon is turning over a record amount of customer data to U.S. law enforcement. The company's fifth transparency report reveals more customer data was handed to U.S. law enforcement in the first half of last year than ever before. And apparently it was quietly posted without a whole lot of conversation. The report indicated that it revealed 1,936 different requests between January and June of 2017, from the government. And it's really simple doing business with Amazon. Just consider it a fourth intelligence arm of the U.S. government in its disclosures to them, and that should govern your buying habits and decisions in using them.
Well, I'm wondering just what it is that the police think they're going to find in Amazon data. This guy bought a book. This lady bought a ring.
Jewelry.
Somebody bought a DVD. I mean, and it's amazing. They're digging at law-abiding citizens like crazy. At the same time, they're taking wanted fugitives off the National Instant Check system.
Putting them back on the streets. Hello.
It's like we have become the enemy of the government. When you go to get a driver's license, you got to show all kinds of ID, birth certificate, passport, all the rest of it. And yet the illegal immigrants are being just flooding across the border. They're being given driver's licenses in places like California. They're not having to prove their citizenship.
Nope.
So when did we become the targets and the bad guys? That's what I want to know.
When the government felt, and I think this happened during the Clinton administration, they could no longer completely control the narrative.
Maybe.
Remember?
Maybe. With all this talk about getting rid of whiteness, maybe they do want to turn the United States into a third world country with a population of people who don't think, who do what they're told, who believe as they're told to believe. And they want to get rid of this pesky population of people who can actually think.
That's dangerous.
Yes.
Yes. Clever sheep.
Yeah. Again, you have to be our age to get that reference. But yeah, it may be that the government has become so afraid of the awakened American people that they want to just replace us, get rid of us.
Yeah. And in a parallel article, which I thought was funny as all heck, apparently hotel and motel staff are ordered by the U.S. government to spy on how much you drink and how you dress. Now, this has happened since at least 2016. Hotel and motel staff have been spying on guests and notifying law enforcement of anyone who dresses inappropriately for their age or has lower quality clothing, whatever that means.
Halt in the name of the law.
Yes.
Those shoes don't go with that shirt.
Right. Fashion police. Unfortunately, asking for extra towels or having lots of alcohol in your room is only the tip of the iceberg. Hotel and motel staff will contact police almost about anything. Now, it's interesting to me in the last year how the former hospitality industry has been turned into the spy-spitality business, courtesy of the DHS. Now, folks, I turned 69 this May, and we had a wonderful late friend who had an expression of speech for a friend of theirs that she travels about as well as an egg. I'm sort of getting on that way, but
so's Hillary.
Oh, I'm almost sorry.
Almost
sorry for her unfortunate situations. And at this point, I'm only going to stay with trusted family and friends with you.
And all of this stuff, of course, is going to harm our tourism industry. Because people who want their privacy, they're finding out now they're not going to get any privacy in a hotel. So there's going to be more of this case of we're going to stay with family and friends. And stay away from the hotels. We value our privacy. We're not doing anything. We're just private people. We have a pre-existing natural right to privacy that the government is supposed to recognize in that Fourth Amendment.
I would like to go back to the accusations that have been made against Russia and hacking the grid or wormed their way into computers in the system. And I would like to politely suggest, Mike, that the Trump administration has jumped the proverbial shark. You can't prove it. And
it's technically impossible. The computers that run critical systems like nuclear reactors are not connected to the general internet. But what's going on here is they're trying to find something that they can get traction with to get the American people to go along with in an expanded global war. This is just an updated version of Saddam has nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
This version is Putin is going to blow up our nuclear reactors.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, why would Putin do that? Putin doesn't want the war. The U.S. wants the war.
Yeah. Well, not the U.S. people, the U.S. government.
Well,
and
the U.S.
military.
government wants the war here. But the reason they're trying all this stuff, Nikki Haley and the chemical weapons, and the Trump administration, Russian hacking, and so forth, is they're not getting the traction with the American people.
No, they're not.
The American people aren't believing what the government is saying any longer.
Yeah.
And again, we saw exactly the same thing happening in the Soviet Union just prior to its collapse. Yeah. And so they're just going to keep trying one thing after the other after the other. You know, Putin's going to melt down our nuclear reactors. Putin is going to destroy Disneyland. Putin is going to repaint the lines really narrow in the parking lots.
Yeah.
Because his brother owns a body shop.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, just anything they can think of.
And what is astonishing to me, Mike, in all this is that the administration actually believed that the American people were going to buy into it, and we can't at this point.
I don't think that they thought that. I think they're just looking for something that's going to work, and they're not finding it.
Yeah.
Because we've been lied to so many times. Torpedoes in the Gulf of Tonkin, Spanish mine in Havana Harbor, Lusitania not smuggling weapons to Great Britain,
right?
Saddam's nukes, Assad's gas, and on and on and on and on.
It's a mess, and I can't believe they thought that it was going to be successful, because it won't be. You know,
they may just say, to heck with the American people supporting us, we're going to fight this war entirely with nuclear missiles and robotic vehicles. And robotic vehicles don't read whatreallyhappened.com or listen to Republic Broadcasting.
Right. Yeah, I am just feeling this crescendo of energy to support a war against Russia.
Yes.
Well, remember a couple of months ago they tried that with North Korea, doubling down on the propaganda?
Yes.
And the American people weren't buying, and by gosh, it looks like President Trump and Kim Jong-il will actually meet.
Well, I think when Netanyahu met Trump, he basically said, put North Korea on the back burner. You can deal with them later. Your job is Iran. We got to take another break for commercials. We'll be right back.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective, and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath Head to aroutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at aroutfitting.com.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just scratch yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Last segment of our program today. A couple of things I want to share with you. First of all, I noticed Fox News is still pushing this Stormy Daniels issue. Now her lawyer is claiming she's being physically threatened to stay silent. And I decided to go on back and Google some images of her from her porn career, purely in the interest of researching the story.
Of course. Scientific,
all right.
always.
Scientific, always. Frankly, I was not impressed. And I'm actually having a hard time thinking that Donald Trump would find her attractive, because I actually didn't. And so I don't know what's going on there. I think maybe this is a bid by Stormy Daniels to get some free public relations, maybe get a movie deal, but she's certainly being used by the Democrats as another attempt to get Donald Trump. Now that the whole Russia collusion thing has fallen apart, they're down in the gutter. They're scraping the bottom of the barrel, trying to find something they can go after him with. So we'll see what happens on that. Now, I want to close out the show today with some very, very sobering words. We are on the verge of a new world war that in all probability will go nuclear. This is not a movie. This is not a TV show. It's not science fiction. We're talking a very real possibility. We all hope that it can still be headed off, but it would be wise and prudent to evaluate your particular situation and make the appropriate plans. Now, you're all preppers to some degree or another. If you live in a hurricane area, you're prepared for that. If you live in tornado country, you're prepared for that. Earthquake country, you're prepared for that. This is just a little bit added on there. You need to look at where you live and basically look around for the first strike military targets, which are going to be military bases, especially all those missile silos that the U.S. has in the Midwest, some of which unfortunately are very close to our family. And if you're not near a first strike target, if you're out in the rural areas, then your preparations are very simple. Maybe get a radiation meter, stock up on potassium iodate tablets just in case, and the rest is what you already have: storable water, storable food, portable power, and so forth. If you're living closer to a first strike target, then you need to be ready to basically pile all of your stuff into the car with your family when that first warning comes on in, like we went through
yes.
a few weeks ago. In theory, there will be an advance warning. We don't know how long, but have a plan and be ready to go. And I know it's not pleasant to think about. And America is just not used to the idea of war taking place on our own soil since the Civil War. But it's a very real possibility. hopefully we can head it off. But the time to start preparing for that worst case scenario absolutely is right now. And remember, prepping isn't just having a bunch of stuff in a closet, it is a lifestyle. Anyway, there's the music. Time for Claire and I to get on out of here and get something useful done with the rest of the day. And please stay tuned for John Stedmiller. He's got lots of interesting things to share with you. And please take everything that you learn here and share it with everyone you know. Remember what Steve said? Keep RBN alive, tell 5, and then get those 5 to tell 5. And we can bypass all the censorship of the corporate social media. We'll be back on Monday. Aloha, America.